Hi, this is the grumpy old IT guy. Welcome to Module 3 of my beginning TSQL course, TSQL, Transact SQL. After completing this module, you will be able to create simple to medium complexity queries and scripts using Microsoft's TSQL query language. Not only will you be able to create queries that retrieve table data for reports, but also insert, delete, and modify rows in the database tables. Now let me turn the module over to my virtual assistant Nigel. Take it away, Nigel.
Thanks, Grumpy. Here are the objectives for this module. We ask and answer the question, what is the select clause? We also ask, how does one use it in a query? To answer these questions, various examples of the use of the select clause will be seen in demos. Of course, there will be some homework. Let's get started. The select clause is the main and mandatory clause. This is where you list the columns or values you want to retrieve or generate. By the way, make sure you mind the Grumpy tip. These can include strings, numbers, calculations, calls to units of logic called functions, or stored procedures which will be covered in other modules in the intermediate course. A select clause can also contain embedded queries that return a single value. Now that's cool. Some tips. Make sure you include names for the values returned if they are not based on table columns. I will show you how. For example, the slide shown above prints out some numeric values and calculation results, but there are no names associated with these results. This could get confusing. Queries based on a select clause only have limited uses, like generating test data for other queries that reference the select-only clause query. And oh yes, we will see how a query can also be used to imitate a table in the from clause later on in the course. Here we see how we can use these simple queries to generate test data. Select 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Select 1 plus 2 plus 3. Select 2 multiplied by 3. Very simple. But what good are these? We will see. Let's turn over the lecture to Mr. Grumpy for a sort demo. Okay, here is our first demo. Let's try out some basic queries based on the TSQL query select clause we just discussed. Handing it over to you, Professor Grumpy.
Okay, this is going to be our first little demo for this module. It'll be really quick and simple, but I'll just introduce the select clause all by itself. And our first example is just going to select a whole bunch of number. There you see the select keyword, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all separated by columns. So I highlight the query. And oh, by the way, I forgot. I'm going to use the test database, okay? I don't really have to in this example because I'm not writing any data back to a table. But I always like to be in the test database when I'm experimenting, just in case I get an idea to create a table on the fly and, do some more experimenting. But anyway, let's highlight this simple query. Select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there you have it. You see the results, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, not very exciting. Let's try to do something a little bit more exciting, and we'll add 3 numbers together. Okay, we'll add 1 plus 2 plus 3. So select 1 plus 2 plus 3, execute the query. This time we get 6. We can even do multiplication. Select 2 times 3. And then we can get a little bit more complicated. Whoops, went down too low. Always do that. You can always get a little bit more complicated and perform some more calculations, like displaying some numbers and then doing a division. Here we have select 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5.0 divided by 2.0. Let's see what we get. So there you go. At the end you get to 2.5. Okay, now here goes some experimenting. I'm going to copy and paste this query. Okay, and I'm going to take out the decimal points here at the end, and I'm going to execute both queries. You can do that. This is a batch. So now we see some drastic differences right? We see the values 1, 2, 3, 4, which is okay. The first query, we see 2.5, 0, 0, and so on. But in the second query, we see 2, right? So it didn't do any of the fractional part of the results. Let's multiply 1 plus 2 plus 3 times 100. So the question is, will it multiply 3 plus 100, or will it multiply the results of the additions by 100? Okay, so here we got 300 plus 1 plus 2, so 303. Here's a little more copy and paste. Let's try this. See, you can start experimenting on the fly. We will add parentheses here, execute both of these in a little batch, and this time we get 303 and 600. So there you go. You see the difference of the results if you use parentheses, so make sure you use them correctly. Here's our last little example. Select 2 times 3 plus 1, and you get 7. Why not do one more copy and paste? Okay, this is what you should be doing when you experiment here. Okay, 2 plus 3. No, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do 2 times 3. Whoops. Easy to misspell or introduce a typo. Select 2 times parentheses 3 plus 1. Let's highlight them both. So once again, you see 7 and 8. So there's some differences on the results. The same numbers, but those parentheses change the order of what the calculation looks at. Okay, so that was our first little simple query.
Here is our next example that shows 3 queries. First query. Select 1 plus 2 multiplied by 3. Second query. Select 1 plus 2 multiplied by 3 divided by 2. And the third query. Select convert. Decimal, 5, 2. 1 plus 2 multiplied by 3.0 divided by 2. Notice the coding style in the last example. When doing complex data conversions for a result set, it is a good idea to place each parameter on its own line so it is easy to understand. Some comments wouldn't hurt either. Demo number 2. Take it away, Mr. Grumpy.
Okay, thank you, Nigel. So here we are. Here's our second example, a little demo. Some more math. Okay, let's execute 1 plus 2 in parentheses times 3, and the second one is also 1 plus 2 in parentheses, but this time we multiply it by 3 divided by 2. We'll do it as a batch. There you see the results, 9 and 4. Now we're going to introduce some decimal points there in that second query where I already copied and pasted it, and I'm going to multiply the results of 1 plus 2 times the results of 3.0 divided by 2.0. Let's see what we get. So we need to scroll up here a little bit. And I always fumble here. There you go, 9, 4, and 4.5. Right, so we're seeing how we can start creating numerical data. Now, since we're only using the select clause, this will come in handy if you have to create test data. But more on that later. This time, in this next one, I took out the 0.0 when I divide by 2. Let's execute them all. Well, just execute these two. So what do we see? 4.5 and 4.5. So the results were the same because I got that 3.0 there that will turn this into a result that has a decimal point. Let's do the opposite. Let's put the decimal point in the 2 plus 0 there. We're going to divide by 2 plus 0. Let's execute all 3. And we do get the same result. Okay, now we're going to introduce a function called convert. Okay, so what convert does is basically takes a value and converts it to another data type. In this case, we're going to convert, and we're going to pop in that formula, and we're going to convert it to a decimal 5.2. So we're going to execute the query. There you go. You get to 4.5 again. So there it is, just kind of broken out so you can see how the convert function works, what parameters it takes, right? I formatted in a, I think, more readable format. So what you need to pass to the convert function is the data type, in this case decimal 5, 2, and then the value. In this case, it's our formula. So we should get the same results for both of these. Okay, so this is a quick introduction to more math in the convert function. Okay, so we're going to take little baby steps, and then we'll be able to do complex queries.
More math. Practice makes perfect. Query 1. Select 1 plus 2 multiplied by 3.0 divided by 2. Query 2. Select 1 plus 2 multiplied by 3.0 divided by 2. These two queries will generate two completely different results. Turning it over to you, Professor Grumpy. This is an important concept, so let's review it.
Okay, we just need to do some more little experimenting here with the parentheses. I can't stress enough how important these are, and how you can use it to control the order of the calculation in a query. So you really have to be comfortable with this concept. So we're going to basically take the same numbers. We're going to add 1 plus 2 and multiply it by 3.0 divided by 2. So you see in this first little query here, the parentheses are grouped around the addition and then the division. And in the next one, we're going to take the same values, but this time we are going to take the results of 1 plus 2 multiplied by 3. So what are we going to do? We're probably going to multiply 2 plus 3 to get 6, add 1 to get 7, and then divide by 2. So let's see how that worked, if I was correct. So we get 4.5 and 3.5. Notice again, big difference. Now we're going to take the results of 1 plus 2, multiply it by 3.0, and divide that by 2. Let's execute all of these three. So we get the same result as the first one. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. And this last one now, we're going to pretty much pop those two together, right? So I don't have to do these queries one by one. I can combine them, and we can see the results side by side. Okay, and then now we're going to do a division. We're going to take that first formula. We're going to take the results of 1 plus 2 and then multiply it by 3.0 divided by 2. Then we're going to divide that by selecting 1 plus 2 times 3.0 and divided by 2. So let's see what this gets us. Wow, that's interesting. Now we're getting a result with a very big decimal component. Okay, let's convert some values. There's our friend, the convert function. And we're going to pop those formulas in there again to see if converting to a decimal 5, 2 will get us some interesting results. So we get 3.0 and 4.50. Let's copy and paste these and then just slightly change the results here. We're going to do 4, and let's do 3, right? Decimal 5, 4, decimal 5, 3 is what we're going to convert to. We'll execute it. So there you see, we changed the number of positions in the decimal part. Okay, so you should be feeling fairly comfortable now about using the select clause by itself and, performing some mathematical formulas.
And now for a little string manipulation. Query 1. Select. This is a string plus, this is a second string plus. This is yet another string. Query 2. Select. This is a string plus, this is a second string, and this is yet another string. Query 3. Select. This is a string plus. This is a second string. Plus, this is yet another string. AS1 big string. Our last example uses the plus sign to concatenate two strings. Second to last query demo. We are almost at the finish line, Professor Grumpy.
Okay, here's our fourth example. Okay, we've been playing with numbers. Now we're going to play with strings. So basically, a character string, we define it with single quotes at each end. So our first example selects 3 strings. Okay, very interesting. This is a string, this is a second string, and this is yet another string. So let's select it. And there you go. You get 3 columns. Notice that there's no names, but the values are displayed. This time we take the same query and give it some names for the columns. Now notice that some of these, at least one name there, the value 1 has a space in it, so I need to surround it by square brackets. Value underscore 2, I don't need the brackets. And value 3, of course, I don't need the brackets. So I highlight it, execute it. So now you see I have nice labels for each of the columns. And you also see what you need to do when you have like special characters in a column name like a space. Okay, usually you won't have anything weird like exclamation points or asterisks. It's probably not good practice to label column names with weird characters. Now in this case, I introduced the comment, I guess operator you can call it. If I have a dash, if I have 2 dashes in front of a piece of code or a value, okay, it comments it out. That means it will not be included in the query. And you see it there highlighted in green. So if you highlight this query, you're only going to get 2 columns. If I were to uncomment that first column there, then I get the original query. Now I can also do some basic math with strings, believe it or not. I can, for example, concatenate them together. I obviously cannot multiply them together. That makes no sense. Okay, unless, of course, if I had a string that actually just contained numerical values, right? I could convert them to a numerical value, like decimal, and then I could do some math on them. But more on that later. So I'm going to concatenate these 3 strings. I'm going to label the output one big string. And there it is. You only have 1 column. Now you don't see all the results. So all you have to do is expand that column. And now you see the results of that query. Okay, so now you're getting a feel on how to use a select clause by itself to not only include numbers and calculations, but also strings. Let's see what Nigel has for us next.
Let's generate some useful records. Here is our query where we introduce the union operator. We use this to link up 2 or more query results into one result. Select C001 as cust_id. Acme Trains as cust_name. 5000.00 as credit_line. Smitty Smythe as manager. Union. Select C002 as cust_id. Hobby Trains as cust_name. 4000.00 as credit_line. Smitty Smythe as manager. Union. Select C003 as cust_id. Main Street Trains as cust_name. 5000.00 as credit_line. Smitty Smythe as manager. GO. Here we use the union operator to create some test credit records. One more demo, Professor Grumpy. Take it away.
Okay, here's our last demo. Okay, up till now, I have to admit things might have been a little bit tedious, but it's important to really get these basic concepts, right? So we're finally going to show you how to create some artificial data that you can use later on for testing. Okay, we're going to combine what we learned on the select clause, with numbers and strings. And here first we have a query that basically displays some, some product information. Okay, so we're going to have a customer ID. We want to display a customer ID C001. The customer name is Acme Trains. Okay, the credit line is $5,000, and the manager is someone by the name of Smitty Smythe. Okay, so let's execute this query by itself. So now we see some real data for a change. Okay, kind of makes sense. It looks like a row of data that might be coming from a table. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get sneaky here and introduce an operator called union. Okay, what union does, it allows you to basically, I wouldn't say concatenate, but to basically join results. Okay, because here we're going to have 3 queries that are going to generate 3 rows, and I want to display them as one result set instead of 3 individual result sets. So there's our Acme Trains example, and now we have a second customer, C002. Hobby Trains, as you can see, is the customer name. Credit line 4,000. And turns out Smitty Smythe is also the manager here. So that wasn't good. That was probably a mistake on my part. So let me say we'll just change this to Smitty Brown. There's a little live development as we speak. And our third example, Main Street Trains, well, we'll just say, oh, good old John Smythe. Okay, now I like to line up the column names there. So are there any more unions? No, there's that go keyword, by the way, means that that's the end of the batch. So if I now highlight all these 3 queries, I can also do, by the way, a check here. See this check mark? It'll parse the query and it'll tell me that I don't have any errors. But watch what happens while we're here before we execute this query. If I take this comma out, okay, and then I do a check here, it's going to give me a syntax error, right? Because I took that comma out. So in this case, all I have to do is come here and do a Control Z, and it'll put that comma back. So let's execute this query. And there you go. You have 3 rows of artificial data. So you can imagine I can do this, maybe for 10, 15, maybe no more than 20 rows, right? If I want to create 20 rows of artificial data. But then after that, it becomes a little tedious. So there's other ways of creating artificial data that we will shortly see. Okay, so let's wrap things up, and I'm going to hand this back to Nigel.
So, what did we learn? A simple query with only a select statement is valid. It can be used to generate values. You can perform arithmetic calculations with it. You can use it to generate test data. A query with a single select statement clause can come in handy. Mind the grumpy wisdom alert. Let's check out some homework. Let's start out with a simple and easy assignment. Using the attached Tsql script template, generate a single select query that contains columns for an employee record. After you test it, using the union operator as shown in the demo, create 4 more queries for different people. Use them in an overall query where the query with the union operators is used in a from clause. It's okay to refer to the demo script to cheat in case you get stuck. What's important is that after you successfully finish the homework, you understand how to code this type of query. That's it. But there's more. Next, we learn all about the from clause. This clause allows us to refer to database tables to get the columns we need in our select clause.